You're listening to the Sufficiently Advanced Podcast.
Love it.
Welcome back. So today we are going to be talking about a really cool, very personal topic, superhero science.
Yes.
And we are, so this is Mr. Lacy.
This is Hanson.
And we are joined today by a very special comic book nerd,
Mr.Lacy.
Woo!
Yeah.
All right, so superheroes. It's not just comic talk.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes we have superheroes in everyday life.
This is true.
And speaking of a couple superheroes, I want to give a shout out to, as they wanted to be referred to, Maui, who made 102 in my class this 6 weeks.
Oh boy.
So pretty impressive.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, so I want to give a shout out to all of my students, my 7th graders. What's up? We've had a lot of fun the last few days. 8th graders, project is due, so I know they're so excited about the project that's due Monday, but I've seen some great ones already.
It's due Monday. Monday.
Monday.
All right, let's get this started because I've been waiting for this all week.
Oh,
2
yeah.
weeks actually.
Yeah. It was
Because we
very-
switched it around.
All
We
right.
had to switch it around. So the idea is, of course we want to sit here and we want to geek out and talk about comics, which this will probably devolve into that very, very, very quickly.
For sure.
But we thought we would take a little bit of time and discuss, could these superheroes and sometimes in the case villains actually exist in our reality? Could you become the Flash, SpiderMan, Venom, Captain America, or a Green Lantern, or even Daredevil?
The easiest one, I think the one that would, if I could say, would be the easiest one, and people would probably disagree. But I'm thinking of Captain America. Now, I don't know about this whole superhuman or the super soldier, but I think the whole cryogenics thing, I think that with advancement, I think that could happen because obviously people get in the cryogenic chambers now, and it helps with inflammation and things of that nature. So I could see a modern day, a real life Captain America right now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually think the super, kind of advanced human is that far off the mark either.
No,
I
definitely.
mean, we talked about CRISPR last time and how we're starting to be able to modify genes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right up that alley. Start modifying muscle tissue to be stronger and
So you wouldn't even have to modify muscle tissue.
okay.
So for Captain America, that is a totally plausible thing.
I can see it happening, man.
I know, it's totally plausible.
But, I mean, others could listen to this and say these guys are off their rockers, but I could definitely see it happening.
Oh, they'd still be right.
Yeah,
right, they'd be right. But that's all right. That's all right. But
Well,
it's us three.
It's definitely possible of Captain America. With the cryogenics, that's one thing. But just let's say in general, when Captain America was introduced in World War II,
Yeah.
he is the super soldier he was a weak little kid, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, not a kid, but he was very weak. He was a young man, and he kept getting rejected from the army because he was too weak. Well, so he was the only one to survive the super soldier process, or at least initially, that we knew in canon to survive the super soldier process. Well, the thing is, that's totally possible. Because there's this little thing in your body that prevents you from becoming stronger. It's called myostocin.
Huh.
And flowotocin. So flowotocin is what creates muscle. Myotocin basically stops it from growing too big. So you have these two chemicals.
Why?
So basically to keep you in proportion and keep you your ATP and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And so we have these chemicals in our body. So with Captain America, if you were to inject someone with an overdose of flowotocin, it would basically cancel out the inhibitor. And if we use gene therapy, if we had something to change the genes, such as with CRISPR,
Yeah.
we could completely break down that whole myotocin limit.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, that's something to think about. It's almost one of those things where you don't want to give everybody that idea, but I mean, since it's out there,
well, I
don't
mean,
know.
the Lacy, I don't know if you know this, but the robot overlords, this is just for them.
Guaranteed to happen anyway.
Yeah. We gotta make a good face.
It's inevitable, right?
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Okay,
Join us in an additional podcast later on this month where we talk about the dangers of AI.
It's gonna be
Man.
amazing.
Oh yeah. Now that's a topic that I've definitely hit on sometimes. So I cannot wait to hear this one because AI,
Scary stuff.
Oh, it's very scary, and it's definitely at work right now.
For sure.
What do you
You
think?
want to go one step up from Captain America?
Sure.
Let's go.
So this one I almost find more plausible in some ways. Daredevil.
Okay.
So, especially since a lot of people think he has superpowers, but fact of the matter is he doesn't. He's just adjusted incredibly well to being blind. So, in combination with, his teacher, who basically also is blind and has similar abilities, just maybe a little impractical. But as far as the actual mechanics of what he's doing and how he's using his abilities, it seems super plausible.
I think so too. I mean, if you think about it, even some of the people that we know who are blind or have something that's not working for them, they have heightened senses.
Yeah.
And if you think of someone as phenomenal as a Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles, okay,
Yeah, for real.
and you look at what they could do and the talent that they have, being having a vision impaired, and that impairment, I could say somebody like Daredevil, that could happen. So, I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's shown in science that people who lose their sight or are born blind or even deaf their brain will take that extra space, like for sight, it'll take the area of the brain for sight and just repurpose it for hearing and touch.
That is amazing.
That's pretty awesome, man. I wish that would have happened with me, since obviously y'all know I wear glasses, and so I wish I would have had some heightened senses. I could be like Daredevil right now,
Right.
And that would work real nicely being a teacher as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on now. So Daredevil, I don't know.
Big misconception, a lot of people think it uses echolocation a lot, too.
They certainly make it seem like it.
They make it seem like
in the TV
it
show
in the
for
TV
sure.
shows.
I mean, which works great for a TV show because it's super visual.
Right.
You don't want to just watch a blind dude running around. You want some context for it, and that helps visualize kind of that process of his senses.
Right. Yeah, it helps visualize it, but it's not echolocation.
Right.
Because if echolocation, you go boop, and you listen to it come back to you.
Exactly, and you need different senses for that process.
Yeah.
It's not just hearing; it's different, almost organs that you're using to interpret those signals. So,
Of course, there have been people that have been said that they can do echolocation, like blind people, where they make little clicks as they walk down the street.
I think I have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Awesome. Well, Hanson, before we started the podcast, you mentioned I think it was synesthesia. I
Yes.
might be saying it incorrectly. You
No, you got
mentioned
it.
that. Why don't you hit on that, because that could definitely make this whole Daredevil being a real person even more believable.
Yeah, so synesthesia is when you have some kind of cross-mogenation in your brain where you have different senses firing together at the same time. So what that means is there are people who actually visually see things when they hear things, or they actually get a smell from a particular sound and things like that. So
That's cool.
it's basically you have different senses that kind of mix together at the same time. So in this context, it could be that they hear things that give them more of a sense at the same time of, mixing with the sight synapses, even though they don't even have sight. It could give them some sort of sense of a relationship between what they're hearing and what their brain is interpreting beyond just that sound.
Nice. So I can see that. So yeah, I can see that with the musicians I've mentioned, and I don't know. That's something I could discuss with a lot of people. I wonder what
That's
any
cool
students
stuff.
would tell us about Daredevil. Could that really happen? Who knows?
All right, let's
In the comments below.
In the comments below. Let's go.
Let's hear about some Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
So, I've
Let's
always
do-
liked Daredevil. I always thought he was like a really underappreciated character.
Yeah,
I
fair.
mean, his It's his hearing is like it said, like his reflexes and hearing is even better than Spider-Man's spider sense.
Exactly, and he's gotten a lot of other superheroes out of some hairy
tight
situations, like some tight spots with law enforcement. So
Agreed.
so yeah, he's a cool character, and like you said, underrated, underappreciated. So
Well, I think we got two that kind of go together. I mean, you see them together for sure.
yeah.
One has a movie coming out real soon.
I think it came out this week.
Is it this week already?
It's today.
It's
yes.
It is today. It is today. That's
October
right.
the 5th. Yes.
So if you are living in a hole and you don't like comics and what's wrong with you, we're talking about Venom.
Which
Oh,
one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Which
kind
one?
of
Which one?
exactly what we're talking about, right?
Are we talking Eddie Brock? Are we talking Matt Gargan? Are we talking Flash Thompson?
We were talking about.
Lacey and I were talking earlier, and I was
Right.
saying that I like Venom, but I really wanted to see a Carnage. Because I want to go full bore into the like intensity, crazy, almost evil insanity behind
Right,
the
yeah.
symbiote. Beyond just Venom's a very gray area. He's kind of an anti-hero.
He's
so.
an anti-hero because
Yeah.
but it also
I mean-
depends on who has the
Yes,
the
yes,
that's what
who's his
we'll do.
host.
Yeah, yeah.
Who is
Most
his
definitely.
host? Because if it's Eddie Brock, then he's a little more. I don't know. He's a little more
Violent.
evil than a Flash and violent than a Flash Thompson.
Yeah,
you know
Flash
what I mean?
Thompson, and that even helped change the symbiote's like characteristics too when he bonded with Flash. Flash Thompson, but
So how practical? What are we talking?
well, you might be surprised.
I was about
Yeah.
to say I don't know, but let's see. Hear what you got to say, Halsey.
Okay, so remember I was talking about that chemical that would inhibit the growth of muscles, right?
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, how big is an amoeba?
Not.
Not bad.
Really?
I mean, it's microscopic, so.
Well, what if I told you an amoeba could be up to 5 centimeters in diameter?
I'd be horrified.
They exist here on Earth.
Oh no. Well,
Yeah. They have 5 centimeters in diameter. They live in the bottom of the ocean, the Mariana
I think there's
Trench.
3 words for that. Nope.
Nope. Nope, bro.
run.
Well, these giant amoeba, they exist here on Earth.
Okay.
And, amoeba are basically cells.
Right.
And they can use their cytoskeleton to move around and shape shift and all kinds of things.
Okay.
Now,
Following.
a lot of these amoeba, there are specific giant amoeba that feed on brain, like
Right.
not on like the tissue, but the chemicals your brain makes.
No, that I've heard. Yeah.
Now, so let's think about this. What is the Venom symbiote? It is a symbiotic relationship between Eddie Brock and an alien that basically is keeping Eddie Brock alive because Eddie Brock has cancer and is dying.
Right.
Right?
Now,
but
see, this is not my wheelhouse. So is Venom itself also sentient?
yes.
Okay.
That's why he refers to himself as we.
Yep.
Right. That makes
And that's
sense.
why I keep coming back to these amoeba. Because we could say, okay, well, what about those that fungus that takes control of like ants and stuff like
Right,
that?
right.
Well, that's complete control.
Right. Yeah.
It's
There's
not-
no, 2 people at the wheel.
Yeah.
Right.
And so anyway, well, what if these giant amoeba can feed off of the chemicals that your brain makes?
Okay.
Well, let's think about what Venom is. Venom was originally found a host in SpiderMan during the original Secret Wars during a very chaotic event where lots of adrenaline. Okay? Then he came to Eddie Brock, who was furious at Spider-Man for ruining his life, his hatred, adrenaline.
Yep.
So if Venom were actually a giant amoeba
Oh gosh.
Okay.
or a collection of giant amoeba
Yep.
feeding off of adrenaline, just like Venom does in the comics. He feeds off adrenaline and emotion and the body of its host.
Okay.
So Venom, totally plausible.
So,
I mean, it'd have to be a very advanced amoeba.
Yes.
But the idea of something that could be a Venom symbiote,
Right.
I would imagine it would be some kind of amoeba.
So
Yeah, we
amoeba with the perfect circumstance of somebody that's high adrenaline, so frustrated and angry. Yeah,
Sounds
that
like a
combination.
teacher.
Yeah. So we don't want to be like near that amoeba, because
we will
it could be a
take you
student.
down.
No. Right. Yeah. So one of the students is probably like,
mess
I
with
wish.
me.
Right. one of the students are probably saying, "Yeah, that could be one of us also."
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Carnage, you could have different amoeba like style symbiotes for different emotions
or different brain chemicals.
different brain chemicals. And so like with Carnage, the son of Venom, is maybe out of insanity.
Right.
Have you ever noticed Carnage isn't full of rage? He's full of actually happiness.
I mean,
Because he loves
what he does. Yeah.
He loves what he does.
that's a psychopath.
It brings him joy to wreak havoc.
Sounds like my life.
Yeah, we don't want a Carnage symbiote. That's all right.
I do.
Oh heck.
So, yeah, I think Venom would be a possibility. I mean, a
Right,
far stretch.
Sure.
But the science says that there are organisms that can feed simply off of body chemistry.
The potential is there,
The potential is there.
especially when you take into consideration, alien life and
Yeah.
how differently it could evolve and that type of thing.
I
All
hated
right.
that.
Not
I
impossible.
hated that in the '90s cartoon that he came in a spaceship.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
That made it a little less.
So
believable.
we're 3 for 3 right now.
3 for 3, unless you count Topher Grace, and that just
Oh,
takes
man.
away one.
Yeah, it takes
Reasonable.
away like 1.5
Reasonable.
or 2. So now we have Spider-Man.
Yep.
So what do y'all think?
Well, that depends. What are we talking about? Are we talking about organic webbing Spider-Man or web shooter
Mechanical.
Spider-Man?
Let's
I want to
organic.
go. You want to go organic? Because I like the classic idea.
Web shooting. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go with the web shooting.
Because I don't care how like honorable Spider-Man is, like an awesome Spider-Man is. How weird would it feel to have that stuff coming out your
Oh,
wrist?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Just think
Gives me
about it.
chills
I
just
want
thinking
about it.
everybody.
Right. My
We're gonna have a
skin-
moment of silence. I want everybody to think about webbing coming out of your wrist.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah. See, my skin is crawling. Seriously.
Have you ever seen those in the movies where they like pull out the IV needle?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
That's exactly the sensation I think of that.
And
Like,
it's not even
that, like
the-
that like sucking weird.
and IV needles aren't even like solid metal either. They are
Yeah.
like plastic and movable, and
Ugh,
they're
flexible
it
and-
makes my
no.
arm hurt.
No.
Makes my arm hurt just
not
thinking
okay.
about it.
Not
Or you
okay.
always have those films where they have some kind of alien life form that gets inside someone's body. You see them right under their skin and it's crawling. And see, that makes my skin crawl. So
Yep.
I can't imagine. Ugh, I can't imagine this.
We're gonna go with just super genius Peter Parker.
Yes.
Or if you also let's do this before we start talking about Spider-Man. All I have to say, let's do a little vote. Who we gonna say is the better as far as Spider-Man, Peter Parker, or Miles Morales?
Oh, that is a good one.
Not having read a lot of Spider-Man, I think there's something to be said about classic
Yeah.
characters. I think that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
But from the comic book people I know, I suspect a lot of people, the better Spider-Man as a superhero might be
Morales.
Morales.
Morales is just a cool. I mean, he's just a cool character. The way and just the way he goes about things. I don't know. I mean, I'm with Hanson about the whole classic. If I'm gonna go with Spider-Man, I would stick with Spider-Man, but I don't know. You got to have Miles Morales just around. I mean, he's just amazing. And I mean, together they're like unstoppable.
They need to give him more credit in the current Marvel continuity. I'm so happy that they kept him around after the incursion and everything like that, and Doom World,
Right,
and Battle
right.
World. Because seriously, if they would have got rid of him, I would have lost it.
And so take it a step further. They
Like
do
we
have,
said, off track.
right.
Fine, it's fine. We have time, I think.
Uh-huh.
Oh wait, do we have time?
Maybe not.
maybe
but
not.
he does
Yeah.
have. There's a movie coming out. Spider,
Yes. Oh,
Spider
it's
Universe,
so
I
good.
believe, with
Yeah.
Miles Morales and Spider-Man. So hey,
So verdict, possible?
Yes.
Obviously the web shooter, I think something
So
like
this-
that technology
that-
easily
Yeah.
possible.
Now let's think about his powers. So we have spider sense, the ability to crawl
Strength.
up walls, super strength,
Regeneration.
regeneration. I don't think we're talking about Spider-Man the other,
No.
the arms or anything
No,
like
no,
that.
we're not.
But, hey, there's lots of good stories about Spider-Man, but I actually think it is totally plausible because
sense.
let's think about it. He got bit by a radioactive spider.
Okay.
Right? Now, 99.9% of the time, that's just going to mess you up and possibly kill you.
Right.
I mean, which is true for any genetic mutation,
Yeah.
regardless of how it's happening.
But there is an actual chance that when Peter Parker was bit by that radioactive spider, and I mean, I'm talking the slimmest chance. I mean, he should have crawled home and probably died in his bed.
Just shy of impossibility.
Exactly. Slim possibility.
Slim possibility. But there's this thing called ionic radiation.
Okay.
And so if he basically, since we have this genetically engineered spider, now those different powers that he has, you would think not all spiders have those powers,
Right.
Or the same strength of webbing or whatever, or the sense. But let's think, they're making a genetically superior Spider-Man. I love that one. Read Superior Spider-Man, so good. Anyway, so
A little plug.
Read Superior Spider-Man and watch Comic Story on YouTube and Comics Explained. Seriously,
Explained.
I cannot
Do
plug
it.
them enough. It's so
Right
good.
now.
But
Comics
anyway,
Explained.
that's a good, so good. But no, after this, watch that.
Yes.
Wait for us to finish.
Yeah.
Because please. But anyway, so
We need this.
we need this in our lives. This is all we have.
Stay.
This is what's keeping us going. Anyway, so there's this thing called ionic radiation, and what happens with ionic radiation is that it can actually cause release and freedom of codons and rearrangement.
Okay.
Codons are those things that make up your DNA.
Right.
And so when the spider bit Peter Parker, if he transferred DNA and free codons and they are radiated in a certain way, it could actually cause his DNA to switch, which makes sense later in the comics when he becomes the man spider.
Right.
A further mutation.
Okay.
Okay.
And
So,
genes are what, dictate all of your qualities, your senses, your, strengths.
Yeah.
All of those
If you
types
think
of
about it,
things.
they've shown that in every origin of them, they show like a DNA strand being rearranged.
Yep.
And that's what ionic radiation can do. Now, most of the time, like I said, it's just going to make your hand fall off or something.
Almost all the time.
Most of the time. But it is absolutely possible. And, Spider-Man crawling up walls. I mean, even in the movies, they showed it. Spiders do have those little hairs that can pierce into things like brick and help them climb up. They have other hairs on their body that move whenever a disturbance. They actually have spider sense.
Yeah.
Spiders actually have a spider sense.
So you think that could be transferred to a human?
Absolutely.
I don't know if that could actually happen, and if it actually did happen, obviously, I would never want to be around that person because I don't know what he would be capable of doing.
I think also, if we go kind of more into the realm of what we're talking about with Captain America, maybe via spider, it's extremely low possibility, but none of these qualities and traits are something that will be impossible to imbue in a human at some point with enough ability for just plain genetic mutation and manipulation.
Yeah.
So power set alone, I would say absolutely possible.
I know.
Power
I just
set
want to get bit by a
transfer via
radioactive
spider.
Oh yes,
Not impossible, but
I just
also,
want to be Spider-Man, even though I'm afraid of heights.
also crazy unlikely.
crazy
Yes.
unlikely. I don't see it.
All right, so far we're 1, 2, 3, 4 Marvel in.
Okay, yeah, I know.
I gotta get my DC.
Let's get our DC in.
Okay,
there.
I do want to point out, you may be wondering why we're not talking about like Batman and maybe even Superman. Superman is an alien, number one.
Yep.
So we can't really discuss his physiology. Also, Batman doesn't really have any powers.
Right.
He's just smart and has a lot of money.
Even
And
beyond,
and
even
his
beyond
money-
Daredevil, he's adjusted to something different.
Yeah, there's been
Exactly.
something
Whereas
different.
Bruce
Whereas-
Wayne is really just really, really, really good at preparing for every type of situation.
Any situation. That means every hero.
Yeah.
If he thinks that any hero
was about to
is
talk
going
about
to go rogue, he has prepared to. He has every weakness of every one of his allies, every one of his friends in a Justice League.
So we're not
He has
talking
something prepared.
villains. He's obviously prepared for them. He's prepared for any of his teammates in the Justice League to go rogue. he has a plan for every single one of them, which becomes a big problem at one point.
It does. It does. And this is one of the best stories I've ever read on DC Comics and Justice League. I suggest reading it, especially if you're just getting into comics even. Tower of Babel is the name of the story. And they actually made a DC animated movie on it that was not that bad. It was called Justice League Doom, I believe.
I think
Justice
that's right.
League Doom. Oh, it was good.
I
it
would
was
look it up. I haven't
If
seen
you're
it
like
yet.
everybody else in the world and you would be correct in hating the live-action DC movies, the animated universe for DC is unreal good. Which boggles the mind how they can't translate animated into live action.
They
but
can't.
And of course,
can.
that discounts Teen Titans Go, of course.
Yes,
Teen
we don't
Titans
even talk about that.
Teen Titans Go is ADHD that sucked down about 50 pixie sticks. It's not good. But like the DC animated universe is so much stronger. Marvel has their live action universe, but their animated universe is terrible.
Not good at all.
But DC, their live action universe makes you want to vomit and cry, while their animated universe is just so rich and awesome.
Amazing writers, amazing
I actually like DC live action, like the TV series.
The TV series.
One of the ones we want to talk about. Flash.
The Flash. So this one is super popular. Now, which Flash did you guys grow up knowing?
Barry Allen.
I grew up knowing Barry Allen. And also, as far as animated, I grew up watching the Super Friends.
Yep.
And they would always announce, that is my arch enemy. So, oh man, if y'all need to look up Super Friends, y'all will get a kick out of how cheesy it is.
Wonder Twins activate.
About the Wonder
Twins bucket.
Ice cubes.
Batman.
So
Super
hilarious.
Twins.
Right. Oh man.
Oh, good
Flash.
stuff.
So we grew up with Barry Allen. I know there's a lot of different ones.
See, I first got into Flash right before Crisis.
Okay.
And so I was exposed to Barry Allen, but when I grew up, I was reading Wally West.
Yep.
Wally West. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I started knowing about Flash with Barry Allen, but Wally West is my favorite Flash.
Yeah, he was so funny.
No question. He's
faster. He's faster.
He's got a better personality. Just everything about him.
I think it's just the name recognition with Barry Allen.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure.
Until
he gets a blue power ring. All
right, we'll let you finish off with your Green Lanterns today. So, what do you think? Could you become the Flash?
I mean,
I
don't know. I mean, even with all this, I mean, y'all talked about all these enhancements. Y'all talked about genetics and things like that.
Time is weird.
And
that's what you're messing with when you're talking about the Flash.
Well, what if we're not even talking about time?
Just being super
fast.
Super fast.
Well, I mean, E equals MC squared. The closer you approach the speed of light, the more your mass increases. Mm-hmm. Which, finding a way to compensate for that mass increase is just, you get diminishing returns on the energy you're putting in.
Yeah.
So you'd have to have some sort of draw.
I'm glad you brought up diminishing returns on the energy you are putting in, sir. Because what does Barry Allen do outside of being a Flash? What is he?
Say,
crime scene investigator.
Yeah. CSI. Yeah.
CSI. Now, one of the main chemicals that CSI works with is hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
Now, what was Barry? Just so happens he was hit by. What was Barry Allen hit by that made him turn into the Flash?
Lightning, yes.
Lightning.
Yeah.
Well, you ever heard of a hydrogen battery?
Sure have.
Yeah,
Nope,
they have them
never.
in cars.
It's weird.
Oh, you're weird. Well,
I'm not very versed on them.
Electricity.
Yeah.
And hydrogen.
Yeah.
The Flash is a battery. He's a self-sustaining battery. Because if he's a crime scene investigator, that lightning would have hit that hydrogen peroxide. And there's a small chance that excited, electrified hydrogen peroxide, because that's what happened. He got doused of chemicals after it was hit by lightning.
Okay.
Well, that hydrogen peroxide could have got into his body. electrified. There is a small chance instead of frying him that it would have done that. It's not even. It's like even better chance than like SpiderMan.
Right.
Okay. I see where you're going. All right.
And basically, it would have turned his body into a hydrogen battery.
Self-sustaining.
Self-sustaining. So he could basically move his legs, but one of the biggest faster. He could run faster.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest problems when you run faster, your perception is harder to notice.
Right.
Well, you would be able to increase all metabolic rates if you were a hydrogen battery. Therefore,
think
even
faster,
he would think faster, his perception would be faster, kind of like what we see in those comics.
But there's also a limit on nerve stimulation and.
But it's sending electricity.
Yeah.
So
okay. I see what you're
Flash
saying.
is possible, but I'm going to say to a point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Eventually,
as you run faster, you get more wind resistance.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so
You've got a
It's
terminal
not-
velocity. At some point, you can't. I mean, you burn yourself to a crisp with the speeds that you're traveling.
yeah. So there's some theories out there that would make, like, people say, well, what if you had an electromagnetic field around them or something like? Well, all humans have electromagnetic fields. Yeah, sure. But it's not going to be enough to keep that wind. If you're running at the speed that the Flash runs, basically you just break yourself apart.
Right.
And then other people are like, well, what if it made a vacuum around him? Okay, that's great. You just suffocated.
Wow.
There's a whole reason we wear spacesuits in the vacuum of space.
Yeah. So unfortunately, yes, the powers of the Flash, possible,
Possibly
but
possible.
deadly.
Right. So
Yes.
So
So I'm
yeah.
gonna give the
impractical.
Flash impractical, but maybe.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's
so you
fair.
basically kill yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
There it is.
cool character,
All right,
but
we have.
Now I want to hear our Jeff Johns fan here.
I mean, we saved the best for last. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
That's all
right.
I'm saying.
All right.
And this is the one I'm not as versed.
And neither am I. I'm not as big as a Green Lantern
there's
fan.
zero comics.
Ryan
that
Reynolds
I'm
kinda destroyed that for me.
Nearly even close to approaching knowledge
Ryan
of
Reynolds.
compared to Green Lantern.
I want to hear this.
Okay, so if you don't know who the Green Lanterns are, basically they're superheroes that have these, we call them power rings. And they run off the emotional spectrum. So they get their power from, depending on what type of color ring you have, it relates to different emotions. So the Green Lanterns run on willpower. And then you have Yellow Lanterns, which run on fear. You have Red Lanterns, which run on anger. You have the Lantern Corps that I would obviously be a part of, which is the Orange Lantern Corps, which is all about avarice and greed.
Oh, man.
We won't get into the philosophy behind my Orange Lantern issues. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, because I didn't know, man. I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it has to do with, expanding your in-group and, stuff like that. It gets ethically complicated.
Isn't there only
But-
one Orange Lantern?
Yes, it's because he went insane with greed and, insanity. And basically, the Green Lantern Corps has lots and lots of the Orange Lantern Corps has a ton of lanterns, but that's because he's literally assimilated them all into the orange light, and he controls them as, like, zombies, essentially.
Puppets!
Which is also one of
all
the
these
reasons
little
I want to
puppet
be an
show,
Orange Lantern,
puppet
because
show.
that would be amazing.
Oh, man.
Okay, so, but
That's kind of creepy.
emotional spectrum aside, all of that stuff, what we're really boiling it down to is a power ring, which is essentially an insanely advanced computer system. That's
Okay.
what a power ring does. Basically, you tell it what you want to happen, and it finds a way to make that happen by manipulating the reality around it.
So
So
you say it
whether-
that way. If you say it that way, okay. Now it seems more, practical
Yes.
when you say it that way. I mean, especially with all the advances with AI, even though AI is going to start telling us what to do. But anyway.
So as we mentioned in the first podcast, the name comes from the Asimov quote, "Sufficiently advanced science is indistinguishable from magic," and that's kind of exactly what power rings are. Power
Okay,
rings
that's
basically
pretty cool.
feel like you're just doing magic. Basically, you want something to happen, and the power ring makes it happen. You want to pick up that table, it just shoots out a beam of energy, grabs it, and picks it up and throws it.
Yeah.
You want to fly? It surrounds you in a field that, depending on which comic you're reading, gives you an electromagnetic field or, gravity manipulation or whatever. But essentially, it just finds a way to manipulate the universe into doing what you want it to do. So honestly, I think this is one of the most plausible out of all of the superheroes, because there's plenty of evidence that suggests that with enough advanced science, we can have nanotechnology, which is doing a lot of this stuff. It can regenerate us. It can build things based on molecular manipulation. So all of these things are even in the realm of science within the next few hundred years even.
And even if you go into it with the idea of, have you heard the concept that consciousness is energy?
Yes.
And so, like, all things in the universe are energy, but energy is not consciousness, but consciousness creates energy.
Okay.
If you think about that, that makes a lot of sense when you think about the lantern cores, the different lantern cores, because they're different wavelengths of light, essentially.
Exactly.
And different emotions trigger different energies.
Yep, that makes sense.
And so that actually makes a lot of sense.
So we basically tied both parts together. The emotional spectrum part, which basically incorporates the ideas of emotions and consciousness related to how your energy reacts with the environment and the relationship there, on top of the super high level of technology, which is basically almost akin to what you would think of as magic. So you've got two things that science is already doing in very limited amounts.
And making them work together. That's the part that gets me. But, hey.
It's really just an interface where, we already have the new Google phones, which can literally call places and make appointments for you. And the people listening to your Google phone cannot tell the difference. They can't tell that it's not a real person.
See, that's scary.
Wait, I have a new Google phone. Can I actually do that?
You should. It is literally, we have a phone that passes a very, very basic version of a Turing test, which we'll talk about a lot more in the AI episode, but suffice it to say, our technology is further along than you might think, and I'm holding out for my power ring.
I need me a power ring, because, we may have to use it against AI, so anyway.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, so...
I guess the best way to end this, because this is actually the longest podcast we've ever done.
Ooh, oh my God.
So,
almost 40 minutes.
Almost 40 minutes.
And we could go a lot longer.
We could go a lot longer. So I think the best thing I want to end this off on is, what comic are you comic series are you currently reading? And we want to hear what you have to say in the comments below. So Hanson, what are you currently reading?
Basically, all lanterns all the time.
Okay.
So I read a frequently updated online running story that a guy's writing. So it's not a comic, but he's writing about Orange Lanterns and entering the DC universe, that kind of thing. But then I constantly go back to Brightest Day and Darkest Night. It's one of the best things that's ever written in comics. It's unreal.
Right now, I'm not really reading anything, but I've been really into the Flash, the series, watching on Netflix. And I think, the new series should be starting next week, and it should be interesting.
Nice.
But that is a good series. I was definitely really surprised. I'm really realizing, like I said earlier, that DC actually has some really good shows. TV series. Movies,
Nope.
Not so much. But TV series, yeah.
Halsey?
It's actually kind of surprising what I've been reading lately.
Okay.
Are
you into Sailor Moon now?
Oh, yes. You weren't?
No, I always have been. I'm
Good,
curious
good.
why you're just starting.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
actually, it sounds a little corny, but I've been reading actually a lot of Boom Comics Power Ranger series.
Oh, they just released like a new thing, like a
Yeah.
big thing where
Now,
Tommy comes
it's
back,
not-
right?
That's a surprise.
Now, it's not like corny like
Right,
the
I can't do it.
show was.
They
It's
get
actually-
dark and intense with the
It gets
comic.
dark. Like they talk about the first Power Ranger team and that. Like I don't want to give any spoilers.
That's been on my list for a while.
It gets dark. It is really, really
Intense.
good.
Gonna look
It's
into
a
it.
proper comic. It's a proper comic. It's got
Nice.
depth to it. which I was really surprised. Like when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh yay, they're doing a tie-in for the new movie that's coming in."
Yeah.
Whoopee, because I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
want to revisit that. But then I got some people telling me about it and how like just crazy it gets.
Yeah,
and
I've
how
heard a lot of good things.
the storytelling, from what I hear, is just from what I know, is just from what I heard then, but what I know now is it's just fantastic.
My-
This
on the
Shattered
list.
Grid event that they're doing right now, dude, Lord Dakin is nuts.
It's a nice break from the usual universes.
And
too.
It is.
Wow. Was it Boomtown?
Boom Comics.
Boom Comics
Comics.
Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Wow. I never, ever would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually straight Marvel or Walking Dead, but I started reading this off of advice of a friend, and I was just like, okay, yeah, this is lit.
Nice.
This
All I
is
think
lit.
about is morphin' time. You know, I can't see.
I know.
It doesn't
it
hurt
is
that
it.
we grew up with that, though.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I mean?
I
Those were my
think about it
favorites
too
when I was little.
sometimes, but they really downplay that corniness stuff, and it's just really actually good storytelling.
Nice.
As compared to what you think of when you think of the TV shows.
Sure.
Because it's not produced by the same people. It's not produced by. They have artistic freedom on it.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
So it gets really good really fast. Well, I think we are 40 minutes in.
Wow.
Solid.
So,
My God.
if you stuck with us this whole time, seriously
you.
awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Join us next week. We'll have another special guest where we'll probably talk far too long with. We'll have. We'll let you know who it is then. But we'll be talking about UFOs and the existence of alien life. Thank you for joining us for our October theme month of just cool stuff. You know,
Yep.
mostly. Anyway, but this has been Mr. Holsey.
This is Hanson.
And Mr. Lacy.
Thank you for joining us, sir.
Smash that like button.
Subscribe if you want to, and hit the bell because YouTube doesn't know how to work anymore.